Welcome to OpenMake Software's DeployHub open source product. In this tutorial, we'll demonstrate how to deploy an application version using all of the objects that were created in the earlier tutorials. All of the previous tutorials were used to create the objects necessary to perform this deployment. Let's review these objects. The lifecycle state named Day 1 was created as a place to put the application named Day 1 app. The credential named Day 1 Cred is just an example of a credential. One is typically used to provide the username and password to the endpoint, and another to access the files in the repository. In this case, we're pulling the files from and deploying to the same server, which is the local machine, so no credential is actually necessary in this case. The environment named Day1ENV contains the endpoint named Day1EP, which is a DeployHub object that represents the local machine. Normally, the endpoint would be a server in the enterprise somewhere on your network. The component version named Day1Comp and the component item it contains named CompItem1 are used to reference the repository Day1 repo and the files it contains. A component version can contain many different component items, making for a tremendous amount of flexibility and control over a deployment. We use just one of these in this tutorial in order to keep things simple. The application-based version, named Day1 App, contains the component version Day1Comp. An application version can contain many components. An application version is deployed along with all of its components and their component items to an environment which contains one or more endpoints. The deployment task named Day1Deploy is used to perform the actual deployment. Tasks are created within a domain or lifecycle state and allow the user to deploy application versions or move application versions between domains for the purposes of organization and security. Make sure that there are directories and files on the same server where DeployHub is installed. Create a directory under the root directory named Target. Make sure it's empty. Create another directory named Source Files. Create as many files as you want within the source files directory. These are going to be placed into the target directory on the same machine. Keep in mind that this is a simplified example for this tutorial, which allows us to demonstrate DeployHub basics without having to access several servers over a network. At this point, we've performed every step necessary in order to deploy the files from source files to target. Go back to DeployHub and let's deploy the application version that we've built. Click on the Deploy view along the top. Click on the Applications tab. Click on the plus sign to the left of the Day 1 lifecycle within My Pipeline domain in the tree structure to see the Day 1 app. Right-click on Day 1 app. Select Deploy Day 1 in the resulting drop-down list. Make sure that the Day 1 ENV environment will be deployed by selecting it from the environment list. Click OK. Click on the Timeline tab. Click in the top line in the list in the deployment number. Notice that it's green. This means that there's been a successful deployment. Notice that the files appear in the Files tab. All three, Test 1, Test 2, and Test 3, that we saw earlier in the source files directory are in this list. That means that these went to the target directory. Click on the General tab. This contains general information about the deployment. It includes the exit code, which should be 0 to show that there were no errors. Click on the Log tab. Any errors that prevent a deployment from taking place will be shown in red. Go back to the command line and look at the target directory. Notice that all the files that are in the source files directory are also now in the target directory. DeployHub's capabilities go far beyond what has been shown in this very simple tutorial series.